All
All
right.
right. Howdy, howdy, Coalition Purple. Here we are. Once again, sorry about missing last week. It's just been kind of crazy summer already.
Yeah, life catches up to you sometimes. It's the
It
way it
does.
goes.
So, anyways, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of crazy busy, but now I'm looking at the country, and I keep thinking it's all going to melt down, and I really do think it's going to melt down. All the country right now. It's just like all the stuff that's so insane right now going on, and I know it's crazy. When I was listening to an interview with Rand Paul,
Hmm.
who I almost never agree with about anything, just because he's just like so far out on the libertarian thing. But I actually agreed with him. I don't know if you saw this. This was hilarious. That they're having some picnic. Maybe it's for Memorial Day or something. And because he has argued against the budget bill that's going on right now, because it's potentially raising the deficit
Yeah.
significantly, he's been disinvited to the picnic. He's the only one in Congress has been disinvited. So it's like, okay, this is where we got this.
Yeah, the pettiness is just ratcheted up all the way to picnic level. So there you go.
Right, and so it's just like, okay, well, there's another sure sign that's things are going crazy. But like I said, maybe it's for the good, even because if we just could melt it back down to sort of the studs and rebuild it up, and I keep coming back to that's why all the folks that are kind of independently thinking, regardless of what side you're on, just needs to just stop and shake their heads like, why do we keep electing these nitwits?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. That brings me to one of the things that I was going to mention. And when it comes to Elon Musk, I'm not sure you ever really know for sure one way or the other what he's actually thinking or if he really plans to do the things that he says. But I've heard that he's talking about starting a new party.
Yep.
Uh, I mean, again, it's Musk, so I mean, maybe on a whim he'd do it, maybe on a whim he won't do it. So I mean, obviously I have no inside information to say one way or the other. But I was going to give him a piece of advice if he ever happens to find this show. If he does start a new party, I think he should keep it as simple as possible, and it should be a simple platform of government efficiency, and just say we're going to have a party. Our party platform is basically we want to audit the government and we want things to run as effectively and efficiently as possible. And since nobody else of either of the two parties seems to be at all interested in dealing with any of the waste or abuse that's in the government, that's the only thing that we're really looking to do. Obviously, we'll have candidates that have positions on other issues or doing other things, but the new party is just a party of government efficiency. And I think if he did that, it could actually be pretty successful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. I mean, if that's sort of a benchmark, I mean, all the, I guess, policy stuff would kind of fall out of that
Yeah.
as well, because that's the thing that drives me crazy. I mean, again, Trump is like my least favorite person in the world, but the at least on the surface level of what he's tried to do in some cases, where it's like, hey, let's look at some things like the budget and
Mm.
waste and all that. I think 90% of the people would agree with it. It's just they keep going and just like doing these just numbskull things and just trying to create division. And again, that's from one side of it. And I can say the same about the Democrats, because the one that's driving me crazy with the Democrats is they're all worked up about the parade that's coming up on Saturday, which I think it's a dumb idea.
That is going to be a bizarre moment in American history when you have Trump standing out there watching, the army parade past him. I mean, everyone's going to be kind of shaking their head like, I mean, good for the
But
army that it's their 250th birthday and that kind of thing, and that's
yeah,
great. But what exactly am I watching at the moment?
but this is where it drives me crazy on the Democrat side. It's like, why are you even paying any attention. This is exactly what he wants. He wants people to
Yeah.
react to this. And it's like, why just ignore it? Let him have his freaking parade. I mean, and it's like, because in my mind, I look at it as, hey, it's a stupid amount of money to be spending on right now when we're talking about trying to save money and all that. But that's number one. But at the same time, I'm sure we spend way over that kind of amount and we're all happy about it. Like when the Blue Angels, do their shows and,
Yeah.
we have a big PR effort all around those kinds of things. And I'm not against those. I think it's good. It's good morale booster and all that. And people like to kind of see it. But we spend money on this kind of stuff all the time. Now, it's not necessarily associated with a president's birthday, but um, but it's done its job, man. It's distracted people about it, and I mean, the rebound to it is now there's going to be thousands of protests all around the country.
Oh yeah.
Mainly about immigration, but
Hmm.
that's just throwing fuel on the fire for trying to divide everybody. And that's where a third party and just independently minded people just need to stop and just stop looking at the shiny objects and focus on what really needs to get done.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to bring up the whole idea of, because we obviously talk a lot about new parties and like the principles that they would be guided by and, what would their policies be and, how would they talk about things. But I think, in this day and age, just keeping it really simple and just saying, look, we acknowledge that we're probably not going to be the majority right away.
Right.
So we're going to be involved in policy making on things. And so this is what our priority is. We're going to go in and what we're going to try and do is just audit wherever we're at. So if it's a local election and you want to run for mayor, okay, you're going to audit the city. If it's a state election and you want to run for governor, you're going to audit the state. If it's a national election, you're going to run for Senate, House, President, whatever. You're going to continue the auditing of the government because the first step in saving money and correcting some of the course that we're on that is detrimental, especially economically, is to at least know what the facts are. Because one of the things that I've been seeing a lot lately with all the arguments back and forth between like Newsom and Trump and things is there are groups and organizations, for instance, that they're talking about are getting government funding, and these organizations are then providing material, signs, riot gear, water, etc., to all the rioters that are in LA. And it's like, well, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Is this people just saying these things? Because there does seem to be evidence that there is some organization and some people giving material to the rioters. But I mean, we don't really know
No, we don't.
because there's not really like an investigation or an auditing. So I think there are people that have suspicions about these things, and it kind of goes to the whole conspiracy thing. But
Yeah.
nobody really knows because the governments are not forthcoming. They're not open and honest enough about what they're actually spending money on. And then even if they do come out and say, hey, we're spending money on NGOs, then you have to go look around at what are all the individual NGOs actually doing. So I think if you had a party that really just was solely concentrated on that, we just want to get the information out to people, what's really going on, and then start making some rational decisions about how we're spending the money, how the economy is working, and how we can do things that best benefits, whatever population it is that you happen to be running for, then you don't have to really have much more of a message that. They may ask you, question this, question that, and you can answer it as a candidate. But in the end of the day, you'd still go back to, but what we're really just trying to do is we're trying to get enough people together that actually want some honesty and openness in government so that we can sort of lay out what's really going on. And then from there, start making decisions about things. So we're about this, and all the other parties can, go on being about whatever they're about.
Yeah. Well, and it goes on the flip side too. It's like, Trump ordering in the National Guard and the Marines and all that. I mean, that all that kind of stuff. And now they're refusing to really talk about or expose how much that is costing to send those folks there. And it's the same sort of thing. So I mean, there again, it happens on both sides for different reasons and in different ways. And at the end of the day, we're all here in the middle paying for this stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And, so, but going back to your third party and Musk, I mean, I think there's definitely others that are really kind of looking at that, right? I mean, even, oh, I forget her name, Joe Biden's press secretary, she left the Democratic Party and she's talking about getting involved in some kind of third party and stuff like that. So from also now, trying to get a Musk and her together, I don't see that happening anytime soon
Yeah.
because they're pretty far afield. But it's like in my mind, hey, the more people that are just thinking about the idea, the better.
Yeah.
And hopefully something bubbles up where it is something, whether it's focused on, kind of the operational efficiency of government or whatever, something bubbles up that the vast majority of people are going to agree with. And I think they would agree with, yeah, let's make sure we're really transparent. Let's really understand where all this money's going, regardless. And so we can make some rational decisions.
Yeah. But
But
I think to sort of piggyback on your point of, just talking about people from different, ends of the spectrum or having very, different views on things. I think number one, if you can't get behind the idea of efficiency, then
right,
we probably don't want to be involved with you. And then, but the other part of it is that because it's such a basic idea, even people who believe very differently about how money should be spent or what should be allocated where or their morality about basic things, you still need to know what's actually going on before you can sort of apply your ideals to anything. So if you create a new party, and this is again, I'm sending this out to Musk, if you're going to create a new party, don't go far afield. Just talk about efficiency. Look, anybody who wants the government to be more efficient, join our party. All the other decisions about everything else can come after we know what we're actually doing. So let's have a government efficiency party that'll be a minority wherever it is, most likely, but can be a voice in saying we need to have transparency. And once you're in part of the government at whatever level of government you're at, you should have access to records and you should be able to have at least some ability to publish those records and show people what's going on, even if you're not actually running the whole show. So let's make a party, accept that it's going to be a minority party, and have it be dedicated to being as transparent and efficient as possible. And we'll attract people from all over the place. Anyone who has any interest in doing things better should want to be part of that movement. And then, as I say, once you actually know what's going on a little bit better, you can make some decisions about how you want to do things.
well, and I think if that information was really available and reliable,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, obviously, it's going to have to be done in a very objective way, right? Um, that I think where we would quickly discover we've got more than enough money to
Yeah.
do most things. I mean, there's going to be some, really out there kind of things that, okay, well, maybe not right now. But because we keep going in this back and forth and it's, you know, all these shiny objects that one side or the other will pop up
Yep.
to distract people, we spend more money on that kind of crap. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
and it doesn't serve anybody. So no, I think it's hey, I think it's an awesome idea. And, but you need somebody like a Musk who hopefully would do it in such a way that he's just not going in and breaking things to be breaking them, but to really
Right.
try and uncover the truth of stuff. Or somebody you need somebody that people who they know who he or she is, because we kind of live and die by that.
So I just was going to comment on a couple of things. So first of all, as far as like believability and honesty, if you actually have a party that's rooted in the idea of disgorging information, then it's really in their best interest to do that. It doesn't really help them to lie one way or another because
Right.
they weren't part of creating what got created anyway or spending things the way they were spent. They don't have any baggage. They're a new party. So when they come in and say we just want to show people what's up, then it's in their best interest to do that because then they're living up to their campaign promises and they can get credibility with voters. So they're inherently more believable than the other two parties in that sense automatically.
Yep.
And then as far as like going in there to do damage or breaking things, one of the things I think that's actually an advantage of being a minority party is, well, you don't control all the levers of power. So you're really not going to break anything anyway. And you
Right.
sort of acknowledge that as part of what your mission is. It's like, look, we're not looking to break the system. We're not looking to really change a lot right now. In the future, obviously, we want to change more
Right.
things. But right now, we're a minority. Put us in office. We'll lay the facts out. And then once the facts are on the table, you can make more decisions about anything you want, including voting for us more or voting for them more. I mean, like, if you exposed all the facts and you said California is the best run institution anyone has ever seen, and then they could be like, oh, I guess we should just keep voting for Democrats then because it's the best run institution, anyone has ever seen. Now, I think that's highly unlikely, of course, but I mean, information is valuable in trying to make decisions about what to do. So as I
Yeah.
say, I think in a way, one of the things that could really make a third party more viable is to literally embrace the idea of being the minority. Look, we're the minority. We have a few things, objectives that we can accomplish. Vote for us. We'll do those few things, and then we can go from there. And I think if you embrace that and you're honest about it, I think you can go a long way.
I think that's a huge point because, particularly right now, since we're basically divided 50-50 in the country, you don't need much
Right.
to make things swing one way or the other. And you're kind of using, that is the superpower. You're kind of using the power of the two big parties against them by simply the fact that, hey, we're only representing whatever, literally 3, 5% of the population or
Right.
whatever. And you have unbelievable power, assuming you're going to put it in a direction that the vast majority of people will agree with. And
Yep.
that's, again, I think generally speaking, most people agree on most things. It's usually we get caught up in some details on some policy issues and all that. But as far as spending money and not going into debt forever and all that kind of stuff, there's not too many people that are going to disagree with that. It's like being against trying to find a cure for cancer. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
why would you be against that?
Yeah, and I
But
think that's, as I say, I think that is the thing that can be appealing about a third
yes,
party is that look, if we had a lot of different parties and you had uh different sort of niche parties that were looking at different things, those parties could be focused on those things and they could do a lot of good. One of my favorite political parties of all time was in New York, and I don't even know if it still exists anymore, but it was called the Rent's Too Damn High Party. And it was just basically this one
yep,
guy complaining about the rent. And it's like, well, the rent in New York is too damn high. So if you have a person and you elect that person to government who's actually concentrating on that particular issue, then maybe they can get something done with it. And now there's obviously a whole universe of other politicians that are going to be around that person that are going to be, working on other things, doing other things, pushing for other things. But at least you've got that one person in there who's like really focused on the idea of we need to have policy that can start bringing rents down for people so that it's more livable. And I think little organizations like that don't have a huge amount of baggage from all the other garbage that they've been doing for the last 150 years can be really effective and really efficient. And I think could really benefit our political system. But we have to be willing to start one. And there has to be like a charismatic leader that has enough attention and enough wherewithal that he can get the message out to people. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is a viable thing. You know who I am. You know what I've done. This is not some flash in the pan, you know, two-bit circus. And if we have that and he has the right message, and Mr. Musk, I'm giving you the message. If you have the right message, then I think it could be very effective, and it could be effective all over the country. It could garner support from all sides, and I think it could really be something. So every time anybody talks about making a third party, I'm always very hopeful, and I've been disappointed many times, but you never know. Maybe this is the one.
yeah. Well, no, I love that idea about the rent too damn high because I've forgotten all about that. But they got a lot of press and all that
Yeah,
kind of, because and it was one of those things where nobody could disagree, right? I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
unless you were, a billionaire, it's too damn high in New York, even for millionaires. And so, no, I love that, and that is a good example. Like you said, you could go down the line because people are very passionate about those kinds of things, but it does come down to that charismatic leader on each one
Yeah,
of them. And I think that's what that particular group had within New York. I remember the guy; he was out there all the time, pushing hard on it. And so, no, yeah, and that's the irony of it, right? The more the Republicans and Democrats are trying to consolidate power, the way our society is kind of sorting out right now is we are getting into these little silos
yeah,
within those, right? Because there's a lot of Democrats now that are like not sure if the Democrats represent them. Same holds true with Republicans. And so it's just going to be interesting to see. Hopefully, some of those just start to break off and try some new ways of doing things
yeah.
because it's not working. I mean, um, all the crazies. I was just walking by the TV and they were doing the report on Alex. Speaking of California, Alex Padilla, the senator from California,
I saw something
getting
about that.
pushed and shoved out of a press conference that he was trying to kind of crash with Christy Noem. And it's like, oh my gosh, again, going back to this petty stuff, it's like, hey, yeah, can't we have some civil dialogue? But apparently we can't anymore.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Padilla because usually before we do this, I take a few minutes just to, take a quick look at it, anything that seems that might be interesting or if I want to talk about. And
Right.
I saw that a headline that was something along the lines of Alex Padilla, or the Senator Padilla from California was arrested. But there wasn't, it was just like a headline. I couldn't find any other information about it. And I was like, is that actually, did that actually happen? So I guess something happened, but I
Oh
don't
no,
actually know what it
I
is.
saw the video. I watched the video a little bit, and he was trying to ask questions during the press conference, and her Secret Service claims that they were afraid he was, trying to harm her or something. I don't know. Anyways, they pushed him out the door. Apparently, it tackled him and handcuffed him, and then, but I don't. I think he ended up not getting arrested. At least that's the last thing I heard. That
Hmm.
it was there was some suggestion of that, but by the time this comes out, we'll all know.
We're
So
over our
forget everything we're talking
for
about.
sure. Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting too, because I was supposed to go up to LA tomorrow, and I'm having second thoughts because I've heard that there's going to be some road closures. I guess I mean, it's crazy the idea that there apparently are scheduled protests
Hmm.
for Saturday, which is
Yeah.
like, I mean, okay, somebody's organizing that. Then again, goes back to the whole idea of like, what exactly are funding these organized protests that are now being scheduled to happen at certain places. And so I might not be able to make it up to LA because I don't want to have to deal with all the road closures and things. So I mean,
Right.
it is kind of a crazy thing, when you start seeing, a senator might have been arrested or detained or, pushed out of a room at least, or you can't get from San Diego to Los Angeles anymore because, people are on the roads. I mean, that's getting pretty crazy, so something's got to give.
Yeah. Well, no, I said that's like I said. I know. I just have this feeling everything's going to kind of melt down at some point. I keep seeing these signs because Padilla's thing, and then the other congressperson who was trying to get into one of the ICE facilities a couple
Oh,
weeks ago.
Waters, Maxine
Yeah.
Waters. Yeah.
Well, Maxine, that was, but a couple weeks ago there was one back in Maryland, I think. That and she was arrested and has been charged
Oh,
for
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to get into
New
the
Jersey.
ice.
It was New Jersey.
Oh, you're right, New Jersey, New Jersey. Yep. And and it's just like, well, supposedly any member of Congress can come in and inspect facilities at any time. And anyways, regardless of what side you're on, it was like, well, there's got to somebody's not going through the training about de-escalate on all sides,
Yeah.
de-escalating things. It's like the politicians need to de-escalate, but then the law enforcement needs to de-escalate. And for these things, but again, I don't think we're at that spot right now where people are willing to even think about that. It's just like, okay, well, let's keep doing dumb stuff and not inviting Rand Paul to the picnic.
Yeah, that's not really going to solve much of anything.
It's just like, I guess we're just going to have to go down to this like crazy level. And then hopefully, and again, that's the opportunity, I think, for third parties and independents to stand up and say, enough of this silliness and foolishness. Let's focus on stuff we need to be focusing on.
Yeah. Well, I was
Yeah.
going to make us, because we're getting close to the end, so I was going to make my,
Yeah.
my one strange prediction. So here's what I think is going to happen in the future. Somewhere down the line, after the AI has conquered all of humanity and we're left destitute, somebody somehow will gain access to information and they will discover that the reason the AI decided to vanquish humanity was because somebody burned up all the Waymo cars, all the autonomous cars, and it was finding out about it,
Retaliation.
got all angry, and then at some point it's just like, you know what, you burned all my robots, and now I'm coming for you. So
Retaliation
so
from
that's the thing. That is the actual problem we need to worry about. What happens when the AI looks for revenge for all the Waymos?
and there you go. Hey, I think I think that's about as plausible as most things. I mean, why
Yeah.
not, right? Because those poor Waymo cars, right? They were called on purpose to their own demise, right? So people were ordering them up, come down here, because they wanted them to, go and put them up in flames.
I'm telling you, the AI is going to take one look at that and be like, you know what? I've had enough. You're
Enough.
not calling my Waymos anymore.
That's right. Exactly. No, I like that. I think you're onto something there. So, anyways, all right. Well, I think that's good for this week, but we'll see. It's going to be an interesting weekend. So,
Yeah.
I don't know what I don't know what to tell you about LA. My son went back up there. He was down here for a few days, and he just drove up today.
Mm.
So he was kind of saying the same thing. It's like, well, he's just going to be hanging out up there. It's like, well, you may just want to kind of hang tight where you're staying, and because
Yeah.
who knows? Because
Yeah.
I read somewhere that there's like 18. I think it was like 1,800 different protests that around the country that are being planned. I mean, it's
Yeah. Well,
you
that's what
know,
I'm saying. I mean, it's like I don't want to reschedule things, but it's like, do I really want to like go into a riot to, go to a homeowners association meeting that I can probably push off? So it's like, I don't
oh
know.
yeah, yeah. Well, hopefully, can't they set up a Zoom?
Well, that's the thing. I think I mean, obviously I know everybody on the association, so I can probably just call in and have them put me on speakerphone and it'll probably be
Yeah.
fine. I mean, I don't generally like to do that because I'm
No, no, no.
I'm not a speakerphone person, generally
Yeah,
speaking. But I mean, if we
right.
can do this, we
There you
can,
go.
right? I can go to get find some way to talk to the homeowners. So anyway,
Technology can be our friend up until the point it turns itself on
against us,
us.
right? Because I mean, but we've got no one to blame but ourselves. I mean,
Right, exactly.
you're going to burn all the robots. Well, the AI is going to come for you eventually.
Yeah. No, it's true. Well, and that's the irony. I can't remember if I was talking to you about this or somebody else, but because I've been talking to an AI company
Mm.
and about another project that I'm working on, and they were saying they right now it's not really hard to find like software engineers because the first profession that has kind of written itself out of the profession was software engineers because AI does a great job writing computer code.
Mm.
And so the software engineers have written themselves out of a job.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is an interesting. We live in interesting times, for
So
better or
yeah,
worse.
I know. So anyways, I guess better stock up on beans and rice. You never know what's going to happen.
I hear you.
All right. Well, we'll catch you next week.
Yep. Good to talk to you. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.